Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to talk about the second chapter of class 12th NCERT book, Kings, Farmers and Towns. Basically, the chapter deals with the early states and economies of that time, and the timeline for this particular chapter is 600 BCE to 600 CE. We need to understand what is 600 BCE to 600 CE. If in between we keep 0, that means the birth of Christ, then 600 years back and the 600 years forward. 600 years before the Christ and 600 years after the birth of the Christ. Christian era, that is known as AD, Anno Domini. Now, in the last chapter, we already have studied about the Harappan Civilization, which starts from 3200 to 1300 BCE. In between this period, 1300 to 600, there is no discussion in your syllabus about that period. I would like to give you a little brief about it. That was the time when the Aryans came to India. Aryans means Ari, means foreigners. They came to India and they settled down. So this particular period, which is known as the Vedic period, is in between the two, and after that what happened we are going to study in this particular chapter. There is a mind map which you can see. This is an overview of the whole chapter. This is an introductory video in which I am going to tell you about what we are going to deal with in this particular chapter. The first subheading is Princip and Piyadasi, that I'll be discussing in the 7th back to basics topic. Then comes the second subheading of this particular chapter. Second subheading says the earliest states, the 16 Mahajanapadas. This was the beginning of the culture. This was the beginning of the establishment of the Mahajanapadas. Jana means people and pada means pad, foot, right? So wherever people settled, 7 Janapads were established, and 16 Mahajanapadas were established, and these 16 Mahajanapadas were here: Avanti, Chedi, Ashmak, Matsya, Surasena, Gandhara, Kamboj, Kuru, Panchal, Koshal, Kashi, Vatsa, Mall, Vajji, Magadha, Ang and Vang. Amongst them, Magadha was the most developed due to some reasons that we will discuss particularly in that subheading when we will discuss elaborately. Then the third topic, the third subheading is an early empire. In this 3.1 tells finding out about the Mauryas. So the establishment of the Mauryan Empire, and then administering the Mauryan Empire. Administering the empire means how they administered the empire and how important was the empire. How important was the empire for whom? For everyone, for the people. Okay. Then fourth subheading deals with the new notions of the kingship. There were new concepts developed, which is known as the new notions of the kings, in which many dynasties of the South India, Southern Deccan have been discussed. And then there is one subheading is divine kings. That means here this has been discussed that the rulers were like the divine kings, and they were considered as deities. Then the fifth point discusses about the changing countryside. Of course, there was a change in the countryside. Countryside means the rural setup. Popular perceptions of the kings, what people thought about their rulers, that we come to know through many sources. This will be discussed. This has been discussed here. Then another subheading is strategies for increasing production. Why the strategies for increasing production? Because agriculture was the basis, the backbone of the Indian economy from the very beginning. So how to increase the production? Because agricultural production, increase in the agricultural production was synonymous to the prosperity of the empire, prosperity of the land. Then the next point discusses 5.3 differences in the rural society. That means this discusses about who all were there in the society, how the society was divided, and how people, what was the actual network, social network. And of course, as we discussed, as we have studied in the first chapter also, that social differences were there. Here also social differences were there, and systematically the society was divided into different sections. Okay, landowners were there, land laborers were there, that we will discuss elaborately. Then there was a system of land grants, and new rural elites also developed. People, those who had more of the land, they were obviously elite classes. The sixth subheading discusses about the development of the new cities. Of course, the particular heading says towns and trade. When we are talking about the towns, that means these were the cities, small cities. 6.1 says new cities, and the trade, wherever the trade is developed, that becomes the city, because there is more concentration of the population. And of course, this population is known as the urban population. In urban population, there were the two types, two social divisions were there: elites and the craft persons were there. 6.3 says trade in the subcontinent and beyond. Of course, we had the trade in the subcontinent, within India, within the continent, and beyond. We had external, we had international trade also, as has been discussed, that from Arabian Sea to North Africa to West Africa, we had relations. 6.4 says about the coins and kings. Urban population, and then 6.4 says this has been left in the mind map. Then we talk about the coins and the kings, because coins were the main essential component of telling about the particular ruler and the rule and the prosperity. Because numismatics nowadays, is one source. This is one source where from we come to know, when we talk about the Mauryas, or we talk about the Guptas, we have found that the punch-marked coins were there. So in this particular subheading, we will discuss about that. Then we come back to the basics, how are inscriptions deciphered, because there was no paper as such. So of course, the stones were there, or the hard material was there, on which people used to write about the social structure, the political structure, the administration and all. So these inscriptions are the main source of knowing about that particular time. But of course, deciphering different scripts. Now here I would like to talk about Prinsep. James Prinsep was in 1830. He deciphered Brahmi and Kharosthi. Those were the languages. Those were the scripts which have been found inscriptions. So Kharoshti and the Brahmi were deciphered, and in those scripts only he could find the word Piyadasi. So Piyadasi is the word which he has described that has been used for the ruler, I believe, and that was the time when Ashoka was the ruler. So that means it's quite evident that he has discussed or the Piyadasi has been used for Ashoka only, which means pleasant to behold. Historical evidences from the inscriptions has been discussed, and in the last point, the limitations of the inscriptional evidences. Of course, there are many problems in actually discussing or in knowing about the knowing from the inscriptions, because inscriptions tell us a lot about that particular period, but of course sometimes they're lopsided. They only discuss about good points of the rulers, very good aspect of the rulers, or very good aspect of the kingdom. So there are a few limitations which have been discussed, that we will discuss elaborately when we deal with each and every topic. Thank you very much.